Hello and welcome to Pro Trader Strategies Market Commentary for Monday, July 13th. I'm Eric Wilkinson, and you very well may recognize me from mainstream media where I've talked about the economic data, the geopolitical environment, and how that impacts the overall markets with my market analysis. Well, I do the same thing in these daily market commentaries, but I also talk about how we implement options into our strategy or into our portfolios based on those assumptions we come up with through that market analysis. And without further ado, let's get on with the economic data. Well, it being a Monday, there's really not a whole lot to see there, especially here in the United States. We do have Williams speaking earlier this morning, and really nothing to talk about other than, the economic picture is struggling. All right, well, so let's talk about the overall markets then. Going over to crude oil, it is still holding on to that $40 a handle, $40 a barrel handle, I should say. We've talked about this. Now that it's gotten above that 39.16 Fibonacci, which is the 50 Fibonacci retracement area, and it lines up very nicely with that value area low, it is really acting as a major support there, despite the fact that I think that we're seeing less demand for crude oil than what we were expecting when we were trading back in those 20s. But again, the market has created this top. It is in a bullish pattern there. It's toggling back and forth above and below that 9-day simple moving average, but it's settling above that, which is really showing short-term strength in the overall market there. I do think that it's going to debunk my theory of being in the 30s and breaking down below that $39 a barrel mark. I thought we'd probably see that sometime this week, but it is starting to look a little bit sketchy on crude oil weakness at this point. And then we move over to gold. Gold's up 11 points on the day. This is, a day where it seems like everybody is happy, right? Because most markets are up on the day. Gold moving higher, and I've talked about this now that it's gotten into that 1800 handle. It's seeming to want to hold on to that. That's probably due to the weakness in the dollar that we've seen and the continued Fed action on going out and printing money. Then we've got the bonds. They are down by 11 points on the day. This morning, though, we were seeing some positive moves there. It's staying above the area that I've been talking about, which is lining up right around, in and around this 180 handle. So we're just slightly off of that. We weren't able to settle up in that 80 handle on Friday, but we are, inside of this area that we've talked about. We've seen the shift in the point of control for the time volume node. That is where the most time has been spent. That shows acceptance of value. So we're kind of right at that sweet spot, give or take a couple of points that I've talked about. All right, VIX is moving higher by a point today. That is with the equities really ripping higher again today. Now, I talked about on Friday, which I was completely wrong. I thought we would see some weakness heading into the end of the day as volume started to lighten up, and usually on a Friday we've been seeing that there's been weakness heading into that based on the fears of the pandemic. Well, there was no fear at all. It almost was unabated to the upside. As a matter of fact, as soon as I got done with the daily market commentary and sent that out to everyone, it started looking like my process of it pulling back a little bit was going to be out the window, and we're continuing to see that robustness in the overall markets today. You can see the Dow Jones up 400 points, NASDAQ up over 200 points, another all-time historical high, 11,000, just blowing the top off of anybody who is short. This is really probably going to exacerbate this parabolic move as the shorts have got to be on their heels and panicking to get out. E-mini S&P is very similar as well. You can see finishing on the highs Friday. The market just unabated, which we'll see in the breakdown of the E-mini S&Ps when we look at the 30-minute chart there. But up 40 points near the highs of the day as we speak. And this is what I'm talking about on Friday. I got done with the daily market commentary right about here, sent that out, and you can see it was just a blast off to the top. That's usually where I would have thought we would have seen that little bit of rollover. We got one red candle at that time, which would have been the rush to the Hampton signal, and no, it just blasted to the upside, finishing almost at the highs of the day. Overnight inventory, pretty long for the most part, and you can see coming into today, no real economic data, but just the fact that the markets opened up with that refreshed vigoration. I think that people are kind of getting tired of hearing the COVID numbers. A lot of people, as a matter of fact, they just found out the neighbor up the street had COVID. He said it wasn't really that bad. He and his sons had it. His wife never got it, but he just came out of his 14-day quarantine, and I happened to see him on the street. So he's doing very well. A lot of these numbers are starting to drop. I guess the fact of the matter is if you don't send COVID patients to old folks' homes or retirement communities, well, they seem to not have the death rates that we would have been seeing in the beginning. And how that was ever a thing, that Como and some other people were sending these patients to places where we knew were going to really be infected negatively. I mean, that was one of the first thing we knew, that that older people or people that had immune deficiencies were the ones that were going to be the people struggling to survive. And you make a decision to send these COVID patients to people that have immune deficiencies. That just, how that's not a thing right now, I don't understand. But sorry, that's my soapbox. Now that we're not doing that anymore, we're seeing the mortality rate be a little bit better. Yes, you can get infected. 1% of the population or better is going to get it, but the people dying from it is not as it was looking in the beginning. All right, so with that being said, on Friday, with that blow off the top, I'm out of my Tesla. I did keep on some SPY because I just wanted to leave some negative deltas on in there. I'm regretting that decision in SPY. We'll talk about that here in a second. But with Tesla, you can see right here, I talked about this. As soon as it got above about 1437, I was going to get out. I ended up getting out, like chasing the market like it was going out of style. Let's just do the breakdown of this on the 15-minute chart here. You can see the market really blasting off to the upside. This is Friday's trade, though. That's today. Friday's trade, 9:30 is right about 9:45 was right about when I got out. 9:30 was when I started looking at it. I mean, literally, I was sending this thing out, looked over at Tesla, and had to pull the ripcord on it because it was a rip your face off rally is what we used to call it. And on the floors, as you're just, what the heck is going on? So with that being said, in Tesla, I ended up getting out. I didn't have this on for very long. And I had on the August, the August, sold the 200 or 2,050 calls in there originally for around $36. Ended up getting out of that for $87.50. Or was it $87? 70. I wrote it down here. It was 70. It was in the 70s, $78, I think, and 50 cents. So ended up chasing out of that one. That was a pretty big loser, despite the fact that I had on a very small quantity in that trade. It was still a pretty decent loser, which I'm not very happy about. And as a matter of fact, I'm considering taking it off my watch list at this point because I am tired of shorting Tesla. Elon Musk is worth more than Buffett now, which, you didn't probably think you were ever going to hear, but the fact of the matter it is. And he can take over Bezos if it goes up to $4,000. So that may very well be in the cards for Tesla. It's worth more than GM and Toyota. Now he's worth more than Buffett. Hey, you can't fade it, I guess, at this point. The market can be irrational longer than you can be solvent. Up another 200 points today, just making billions every single day for Elon Musk. Now, E-mini S&Ps, I did on the SPY for that trade. I'm going to leave this on. Yes, we are starting to move a little bit higher here, but I have to think that there is some type of correction. You have these massive parabolic moves It is good for our portfolios, but I do want to keep on some negative deltas in my portfolio just for protection. Another thing to talk about is Pfizer got fast tracked, which I still have on some long calls in my portfolio with Pfizer, and that hasn't been doing very well, I'm not going to lie. As a matter of fact, I've gotten the directional move incorrect on this, but we are starting to get some volatility expansion, and I am long the 38 calls in there for Pfizer that I originally paid $1.22 for. That market starting to make a move back, but basically they've got the FDA fast track for a vaccine, and they're starting to work on that. So Pfizer doing nicely today. It's still not out of the woods yet on this strategy, but these are in the September, so I'm going to hold on to that. But just some news coming out. We also have coming up this week basically is going to be the first round of earnings, and it's going to be on the banks, so we're going to be checking those out going forward, and we'll see how that goes. But other than that, the only thing I've done today is keep an eye on my portfolio. I'm out of Tesla. I haven't removed it from my watch list yet, but it is close. That's all I have to say about that. Other than that, I hope you guys all take a moment. I almost forgot. We do need to take a moment to go over the disclaimer. Please take a minute to go over this. We are an educational company. I'm not trying to get you guys to limbing off the cliff with my trade or with any trade recommendation. Those are not trade recommendations, because for crying out loud, I would hate it for you guys to get into that Tesla trade, being directionally wrong there. All right, so other than that, if you can't take that, take it easy.